Today I'm going to do a book review on the third Urban Rabbit Project book, Rabbits in Colonies, by Boyd Craven Jr. and A.Z. Nelson. Well, I'm gonna be brutally honest here. This book took me a long time to read, and it's only 88 pages. And the reason for that was there were typos on about 75% of the pages, and it was a chore to read it. I was actually quite disappointed because while the first two books had typos, as most self-published books do, this one was like 75 to 80% of the pages had typos, like things like subject and verb agreement didn't match, and extra words and sentences, missing words and sentences. Nothing was ever actually spelled wrong, but I trudged through this book, and it's a real shame too, because there is some good information in here if you want to raise rabbits in a colony situation. This book should have only taken an hour to read, and it took me like all week because I could only read it in snatches because it was just so... it was so in need of good editing. And I mean, I know part of it was because the co-author was not speak English as a first language, but the other co-author does, and a simple reading through, a couple proofreadings of it would have showed most of those. So the majority of my time was spent wincing because of all the mistakes. And I mean, that's just something, I'm an avid reader and an avid writer, and that stuff just really gets to me. So, okay, after ranting about that for 2.5 minutes, the book does cover quite a bit. It covers things like rabbit tractors and gigantic hutches and that are kept outdoors, and pens for rabbits to live in outdoors, and pens in horse stalls, pens in sheds that are just pretty much open, so all of the does run around together. And there was also some situations where a couple of does would be paired up in slightly smaller size pens, and the bucks, of course, were never given free range. So there's really good information to a certain extent, and the pictures are just amazing, and they're in color, and that part is just really, really good. But this is by far the weakest of the three books, and I have to say I was very disappointed, and not just from the typos, but there was some condescension in it from the non-American author of the book, just towards people that raise rabbits in cages. And while it was never overtly blatant, it was noticeable. And that's another thing. I just don't feel like rabbit raisers should tear apart other people's decisions when it comes to how they're going to raise their rabbits. Now, I am all for colonies, and I hope to have something like that someday. But in the meanwhile, there's absolutely nothing wrong with raising them in wire cages. And it's highly recommended by the American Rabbit Breeders Association. So, and I've never had any problems with sore feet or anything like that, raising them in wire cages. And as much as I'd like to have them outdoors in rabbit tractors all the time, that's just not possible in the Pacific Northwest. So, I don't know. There was so much in here that just could have been presented in a much better way. But I do like the fact that it discussed things like the dangers of a colony, the predators that could get in, how to get started, type of bedding you might need. Has a good section on coccidiosis or coccidia and how to take care of it and how to get your pens or hutches or cages clean after a bout of such a thing. Talks a little bit about breeding in a colony situation. It talks about taking out kits and reintroducing them if you decide to keep one. But I don't know. So much of it just seems to be missing. The other books were far more in depth, and I don't know. I was very disappointed. I expected more, and I didn't get it. Bits of it are worth reading if this is a direction you want to go. And the pictures alone made it worth it for me to buy it. So, I mean, because they're gorgeous. They're full color, which the other books did not have. So, and it does show the different hutch designs. Well, no, it doesn't show the designs, but it does show the various hutches and how the rabbits are in them. Although considering the number of pictures in this book, the fact that there's typos on almost every page, yeah, I don't know. Alright, so, like I said, I think it's worth it for the pictures and the small bits of information that are not horribly typoed. I guess that's it. That's really all I have to say about it. First book was better. Second book was the best. This book is weak.